Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my July 2019 reading wrap-up. If you're not already aware, I do weekly entertainment wrap-ups of everything I read, watch, and listen to, but for now it's just the books. This month I participated in Fairy-a-thon, I was part of a vlog tour. I need to mute my computer. This month I participated in Fairy-a-thon, a vlog tour, and I was on the other side of the country for half of a month, so not much else. I was away visiting family and I made some adorable videos while I was there, so you should go check those out. Oh yeah, and I also did the reading rush. For some reason that week of 10 books just flew out of my mind. It seems like so long ago. Today is also my day off, so I'm enjoying some coffee at home because when you're my age, you have to do things like take an antacid and eat some toast before you're even allowed to have coffee. And I figure I'm already gonna be sweaty in this video because it's summer, so I might as well just be more warm and drink coffee, right? I also just kind of need it because I read a lot of books this month. Additionally, I'm doing a buddy read with Jean right now of A Lesson in Thorns, and one of the characters has a lip piercing, which made me put my own jewelry back in, which I haven't worn for years, so that's why that happened. I'm going to start with the nerdy hardcore stats and charts and then get into what I read. In July, I read 26 books for a total of 8,069 pages, which is, I think, the most I've read in a month. That takes into account converting audiobook minutes to pages, so 3,756 of those pages were actually about 86 hours of audio. The age breakdown for these books was 12 adult books, 11 YA books, and 3 middle grade books. I read 19 novels, 1 novella, and 5 graphic novels. This month I read a lot of contemporary with some fantasy, non-fiction, sci-fi, spec fic, and historical fiction tossed in. If you adjust by page count, you see that the historical fiction was likely a graphic novel, which it was. It was also set in the 1990s. Which I don't feel like should count as contemporary, but historical fiction also seems super weird as a category for something that took place during my lifetime. Most of these books, no surprise, came from the library, but I also did some purchasing because I spent half the month away from my library. I read 4 paperbacks, 3 hardcovers, 11 audiobooks, 7 ebooks, and 1 uncorrected proof. Most of my books were in the 300 to 499 pages range, and the majority were 2019 releases or published this decade. Most of these books were by female authors, and the protagonists had a variety of genders. In terms of setting, I don't think I have read so many US-based books in a month during my time on BookTube, but there is so little variety in this chart. In terms of diversity, I read a lot of queer content, some to do with race and mental health, some with intersectionalities, and some with no discernible diversity. In terms of star rating, this month I had 1 2-star book, 4 3-star books, 6 3.5-star books, 7 4-star books, 3 4.5-star books, and 5 5-star books. Let's start with the lowest rated read and work our way up to the highest, shall we? My 2-star read was the first book I read for the reading rush, which was Can You Ever Forgive Me? Memoirs of a Literary Forger. This wasn't very well written, which is funny because it's about this person who was a literary forger. Basically, this could have dealt with a lot of fleshing out. It would have been more interesting if I knew more about, I don't want to say these characters, but the people that were in this life of crime, if you will. And I have a feeling that this is one of those books where the movie is actually better, especially because Melissa McCarthy is in it, so I'm gonna have to watch it. Constantly sawing. What are you building, sir? No safety goggles, nothing. Just sawing things on your deck. Oh no, go right ahead. I've got time. That was sarcasm. Please stop what you're doing. On to my 3-star reads, the first 3 being audiobooks that I read for the reading rush. Those being the first 3 books in the Bunnicula series, Bunnicula, Holiday Inn, and The Celery Stalks at Midnight. These are middle grade books from when middle grade wasn't even a genre yet. The first one was published in 1979, and then I think the other ones were 82 and 83, so these are even older than I am. And the thing about these is, if I were just going by how much fun I had listening to them, they would have a much higher rating, and probably they just should have a higher rating because I shouldn't judge a book published before I was even born based on current publishing standards of not saying things like talking about gypsies because they're the Romani people, or how weird it was that there was a murder your wife plot in the second book. Because really these books draw on literary canon and I love what they're doing with that. It just seemed really out of place in middle grade books, which is possibly why I knocked these down to a 3. I don't know. They are very enjoyable, they are fun, they're from the perspective of the family dog. I swear I must have at least read the first book as a kid because I definitely remember the title of this series, and if I didn't just make that up in my head, it was very fun to go back and do this, but it was weird to go back with an adult lens and also a 2019 you probably shouldn't say certain things type of mentality. These really were a lot of fun in the end, especially the first two books. The third one was kinda eh. Also a 3-star read for me was Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. This is about a girl who's dating another girl named Laura Dean, and Laura Dean keeps cheating on her. She never actually breaks up with her in the course of this graphic novel, which makes the title really annoying to me. She just keeps cheating on her, and then they don't see each other for a couple of days, and then they get back together, and then the same cycle repeats itself. This was just okay. The art style was nice. I liked some of the side characters. There were things in it that just weren't fully developed, and the ending seemed really rushed, and yeah, it was fine. It wasn't anything great. On to my 3.5-star reads, the first one being Valiant, which is the second in the Modern Day Fairy Tales by Holly Black. This is for the Fairy-a-thon Readathon, which I am excited to get into Ironside next week. It's gonna be great. Maybe. I don't know. I've never read them before. This one took a very dark turn. It's in the same universe as Tithe, but it has a different protagonist, and she's just a normal girl with a boyfriend and a mom and all of this stuff, and then something happens in the first couple of chapters to just completely throw her off balance, and on that night anyway, she was going into the city to watch a baseball game, so she goes into the city and she just kind of never goes home after that, and a bunch of things happen. Obviously, she meets up with some fae people. Magical adventures ensue, but also a lot of drug use. Trigger warnings for hardcore magical fairy drug use. Which is not a sentence I thought I would ever say, but here we are. I'm really enjoying doing this read-along because I've been meaning to go back and read Holly Black's earlier work anyways, so this just works out for me. It's also just really nice to read something that you know a bunch of other people are also reading at the same time. It's just such a homey feeling, and I love it. Next we have Mooncakes. This is a graphic novel I got from NetGalley that stars a witch and a werewolf and a little bit of a love story and a little bit of a mystery. It was just nice and quick. The art was really beautiful. It was only colored to a certain point in the e-arc, and I think that's what it was like in the physical arcs that a lot of people got from BEA or BookCon or wherever people went in New York and got all of their free books a little while ago. But thinking about it now, because I read this way early in the month, I can't really remember too many details besides I generally enjoyed the experience. Next we have Artificial Condition, which is the second in the Murderbot Diaries series, which is a series of novellas, and apparently after this there's going to be full-length novels, so that's something to look forward to once I've finished this quartet. This series is about an AI that likes to call themselves Murderbot. They are supposed to be a security bot, and they are supposed to listen to what they are told to do, but they figured out how to hack their system so they can basically do whatever they want. And what they want to do is watch their stories and be left alone, which is so relatable. There is some of that in the second installment, but there's also kind of a quest element to it. It was very interesting to see how that went down for Murderbot, and then I also am just excited to see Murderbot kick more ass in the next novellas. Next we have Honor Girl by Maggie Thrash. I read all of this in my bathtub last week. This is a graphic memoir about Maggie Thrash's time at a summer camp when she was in her teens. It's all about her kind of coming of age story, realizing that she likes girls, one particular girl in fact, and then also has a little bit to do about Backstreet Boys because she was obsessed. I've never quite seen a budding love story like this one, and it captivated me. I read the entire thing, and it's a pretty chunky graphic novel while sitting in my bathtub. Next we have Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. This is the second in her Royals series. I read the first book in this series earlier this year and really enjoyed it, and then I decided to pick up this one because it features a female-female romance. This one has a different protagonist than the first series. She goes over to Scotland and she falls in love with a princess that we meet for the first time in the first book. What I really adore about these books is the royal family in these books is the royal family of Scotland, and I adore Scotland. There's a lot of scenes that take place in Edinburgh, which is my favorite place on earth, and I just want to go back. And I actually would really like to plan a UK 2020 trip, so I'll see what I can do about that. There are definitely some friends over there that I would love to see again. There are also some BookTube friends that I would like to meet physically for the first time, so I'll see what I can do. Because money. But this series is a lot of fun. I love the way that they're written, and the nostalgia factor is just so perfect for me. Next we have Gods of Jayden's Shadow. The cover of this book is gorgeous. I actually got an early copy through work and just finished reading it on the 31st. I picked this up the day before the reading rush happened, and then it wasn't on my TBR for reading rush, so I had to put it down, read 10 other books, and then pick it back up again. This book follows a girl named Cassiopeia who lives in a small Mexican town in the 1920s, and basically the family there treats her her like the family slave. She does all of the housework, she does all of the errands, that type of thing. One day the patriarch of the family decides to punish her for something she didn't even really do wrong and leaves her behind when they all go off to have fun, and then something happens, and because of that something she ends up going on a rather magical adventure. So to recap, Mexico, 1920s magical road trip. I mean, honestly, if that phrase doesn't have you intrigued, then this won't be the book for you because I very much enjoyed it. I'm tempted to say that I found some of the plot very predictable, which feels super weird because there was so much of the plot that I did not see coming and just would twist and turn and all these magical things would happen and you would just have to roll with it. And because of that, this ended up being a really interesting adventure story. On to my 4-star reads, the first one being Heavy Vinyl, which is the thing I classed as historical fiction, even though it takes place in the 90s. This is about a group of girls that work in a record store and then they also do something else together, which is an utter surprise that I will not ruin for you. It is my understanding that at this point this is a standalone comic and I don't think it's going to have any sequels, but if it did, I would definitely read them because these characters were very fun. There were a few different queer characters I really enjoyed, and these girls just kick ass. Also, if music is your thing, there's lots of talk of music in this, obviously, and even I chuckled at a couple of the music puns. Next we have The Big Rewind. I picked this up on an utter whim while I was in New Brunswick because I just needed something to read. One day our protagonist gets some mail that is meant for her neighbor, so she goes to return it to her neighbor. She actually has a key to that neighbor's apartment because they are quite friendly, so she uses her key and she finds her neighbor dead. This turns into a murder mystery of who killed her friend, but it also turns into her trying to help somebody that is wrongly accused and her going through all of her relationships in her past and kind of figuring out what went wrong and how she feels about them, which is why the title of the book can be taken a couple of different ways, and I love when titles do that. There were parts of this book where the characters were being overly judgmental about other people's lifestyle choices. For example, I don't know how many times they look down on people that don't eat meat, which I don't eat meat. But then again, it also just felt like commentary on the people that are holier than thou because of their lifestyle choices, so it was a little bit of tit for tat. I enjoyed the characters in this. I like that it wasn't just always focused on the murder mystery, but had all this other backstory going on at the same time. Very much enjoyed. The book that I was on a vlog tour for this month was Fitz Crusade. This was a lot of fun. I think it's very funny that going into this I didn't know what it was, so with that title and with somebody talking about armor within the first couple of pages, I thought that this was set in kind of a medieval period, and no, it's about superheroes and supervillains. This is the first in a series about a supervillain called Dr. Fid, who has been doing supervillain things for the past 20 years or so. He started out as a supervillain to get revenge for something tragic that happened to him, and he ended up not being able to get the revenge the way that he wanted. However, he's also a tech genius, so he stages these situations in which he can leave behind some tech that other people can figure out and then can be used for the greater good of the population. He was a very fascinating anti-hero character, and I really enjoyed his interactions with other supers, but then also people in the other side of his life. If you like superhero stories, this is definitely something you should pick up. Speaking of superhero stories, my next book is Not Your Backup, which is the third in the Sidekick Squad series by C.B. Lee. I really like this series. I really like these characters. These books are set in a future where some people have superpowers and they're kind of inherited, but it doesn't mean that if your mom had a superpower, you're necessarily going to get one or it's going to be the same power. What I like about this series is it all focuses on this one friend group, but each of the books are from a different protagonist's view. The first protagonist in this series was bi, the second one was trans, and this one is Ace Arrow, and in a queer platonic relationship, which was so refreshing to see because I am also in a queer platonic relationship. There's really not much I can say about the plot of this book because it's the third in the series, but again, if you like superheroes, and especially if you like queer shit and superheroes, read this series. Speaking of queer ship, next we have On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. I actually read this as the webcomic, but you can get it in quite a thick bind-up. This series is absolutely beautifully drawn. It's about a crew of people that go through space fixing up old buildings. And the storyline kind of goes between the present and 5 years in the past when one of the characters was at school and met the love of their life. All of the characters in this book, with the exception of one, are female. The exception is a non-binary character that I really enjoyed, who also didn't speak for the majority of the book. And honestly, this art is so beautiful. I just want it plastered all over my walls or as the background on my phone or anything like that because it's so visually stunning. Next, I listened to There's Something About Sweetie. This is a companion novel to When Diplo Met Rishi, and it actually features Rishi's younger brother. He generally hasn't had no problem dating, but he's never actually dated an Indian girl, and when this this woman breaks his heart, he actually consents to his parents setting him up, because after this, he can say he did it, and then they can just shut up about setting him up. They want to set him up with Sweetie Nair. The problem is Sweetie Nair's mom doesn't want her to date until she loses some weight. Sweetie thinks this is ridiculous and goes behind her parents' back to date Ashish anyway, although his parents know and they have some rules. I really enjoyed the dual perspective of this book. I love that they had certain dates they had to go on that were parent sanctioned. I loved all of the body positivity in this book because Sweetie is fierce. She's a super talented singer, she's a super talented athlete, and she actually gives no craps about what her weight is, and she wishes other people were the same. On the contemporary train, I also read Roomies by Christina Lauren. This is the second book I read by them. There is another one on this list that we'll get to. This book features a woman named Holland who has a crush on this busker that she sees all the time in the subway, and that busker's name is Jack. He's a fantastically talented musician, and when one of the musicians is leaving the show that Holland's uncle is working on, he is looking for a new musician, and Holland immediately thinks of Jack. The problem is Jack is from Ireland and he's not exactly in the country legally, so he would need to work out some way of working in the country, and because he's been there for 4 years without a work visa, it doesn't seem likely that he's going to be allowed to be a part of this production. Someone comes up with the wild idea of Holland and Jack getting married so he can get a green card, and this is a fake to real relationship book, and it was so good. Usually books that feature marriages just so somebody can stay in the country really bother me, because I've had a couple of friends who have gotten married to people in countries other than the one they were born in and had problems staying together because of visa issues. And if it's that stressful and upsetting for people who are actually in love, I don't really like the narratives where people just get married and just skate through the visa office. Fortunately, there were bumps in the road to do with this marriage, and there were some interesting plot developments, so I didn't hate it as much as I thought I might based on my own personal experience with friends who have gone through these types of things and had some really terrible experiences. Like I said, this wasn't the only Christina Lauren book I read this month, and I liked the other one even more, so they are at the top of my list right now for authors that I just want to read all of their things. On to my 4.5 star reads, the first one being Opposite of Always. This one is about a boy who has been pining over his best friend for years. The problem is she is dating his other best friend, so it's clearly never going to happen. While he is staring longingly across the room at her at a college party, this other girl interrupts him and they have a kind of flirtation, and then they kind of get together. The problem is she has a secret with her health, which will definitely impact their relationship. This sounds like a straight up contemporary, but you get to a certain point and you realize it is speculative fiction, and I don't want to ruin what that speculative element is. So if you want to go into this book without knowing what this twist is, ignore this part that's black and white. This ends up being a time travel book. And the best thing is that time travel element is never explained, and it's really interesting to see him go back and live these 4 months over and over and over again and see what his different choices mean to the different people in his life. Obviously, this book is going to have some heartbreak in it, but it is also very, very hopeful, and I ended up really enjoying my time with it. Next, I listened to the audiobook of With the Fire on High, which is read by the author, which was great because she has a beautiful voice. This book is about Imani. She's a senior in high school, and she's also the daughter of a toddler. She's no longer with her daughter's father, but he does have custody on the weekends. And what she's really known for is the way that she cooks. People absolutely love her food. So when an elective opens up at school where she could learn from a master chef, she jumps at the chance, but part of the course is going away to Spain for a week, and she doesn't think that she's going to have the money for it. I really love this character. She wouldn't let anybody shame her for being a teenage mother. She had these passions, but she was guarded about them because her daughter came first. And this book just made me so hungry. From a book that'll make you hungry to a book that'll make you thirsty, I next read Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. I don't know if you know this about me, but it is an absolute delight to me to listen to smutty audiobooks while I'm in public, especially when I'm on the bus to or from work. I think it is so funny because they are saying filthy things to me and nobody in the bus knows. This book is about Georgie, who is the baby in her family, and to get any attention growing up, she kind of had to be the clown, which is interesting because she grew up to be a party clown. Since she hit puberty, she's had a crush on Travis, who is her brother's friend who ended up playing Major League Baseball until he hurt himself, and now he's back in town and his life is kind of the shits. He also has kind of a reputation for being a womanizer, which means that this very family-friendly network might not hire him for this job that he really wants. Since Georgie wants more respect from her family and peers, and Travis wants to appear as though he is more wholesome, they decide to fake date. This gets smutty and sexy, and there are lots of feelings in it, which I need if I'm going to be reading smutty and sexy things. It was a very good time. This is the first in what's going to be a series, and I will read the rest of them. This was a lot of fun. Now we're on to my 5-star reads. The first 2 books I'm going to talk about were rereads for me. Whenever I do my list like this, I always put my rereads at the beginning of the 5-star list so that other books can have a chance to be the best of my month. The first 5-star reread was The Hate You Give. I reread this for the Reading Rush challenge of read a book and watch the adaptation, which means I finally got around to watching that movie, which was really good. Especially when you consider they had to reshoot literally every scene that had the character of Chris in it because the original actor did something racist. At this point, I'm pretty sure everybody on BookTube knows what The Hate You Give is, but in case you don't know, it is a Black Lives Matter book about this girl named Star who's at a party one night. Her friend gets pulled over by a cop and is killed for no reason. She lives in a poor neighborhood but goes to a private school and has been straddling these 2 lives and has to figure out if she's able to speak up for her friend and what that's going to mean for her own life. It's a super powerful book. I read it back in 2017, gave it 5 stars then, I gave it 5 stars now. It will always be a 5-star read for me. My favorite reread of the month was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This I listened to the audiobook because my library finally got it, and I really enjoyed it. At first I didn't think I was going to enjoy this narrator's voice, but he ended up doing a really good job. This is a hate-to-love romance between the first son of the United States and a Prince of Wales, and that's all you should really need to know because that's all I knew going in, and I absolutely freaking adored it. I read an e-arc of this earlier this year. This was my first reread. There's a chance that I'll reread it again next month when I get my copy of it, because I ordered a signed and personalized copy of this book from a bookstore that my friend works at in New York, but shipping to Canada is super expensive, so I shipped it to a friend of mine in Orlando, and I will pick it up at BookNet Fest, which is getting so much closer and I'm so excited. This book was just as swoon-worthy the second time around. On to my 5-star reads that were not rereads, the first one being The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This is something I picked up for myself on a whim, and then I also sent a copy to my friend Melanie from Mel to the Any and asked her to buddy read it with me, and she did, and we had a wonderful time. This is the type of book that we knew going into it was going to be something that we were going to enjoy, because we both tend to enjoy very feminist books about rape culture and trying to get through rape culture, and that is very much what this was. Definite trigger warnings for rape and sexual assault in this book. This book follows a lot of teenage girls throughout this very small town, but in particular it focuses on 3 of them. Grace just moved to town, she's curvy, and her mother is a pastor and she has grown up in the church. Erin has lived there for a few years. She has completely shaved her head because she wants to, and she's autistic. And Rosina is a Mexican-American lesbian who has a lot of ties to her very extended family and would just like a break from them. These girls form a friendship and they form a club called the Nowhere Girls that focuses on the rape culture that is in their town. The school year before, there was a girl at the school who accused 3 of the boys at the school of raping her, and she was basically laughed out of town. And this club not only wants justice for that, but justice for all of the crappy things that dudes do all the time. What we particularly liked about this book is it showed a large spectrum of characters and it opened up a lot of discussions. Penultimately, we have the remaking of Corbyn Whale. This is a book that I meant to read last year, which is the challenge I fulfilled for the Reading Rush. This came on my radar during the second round of the Queer Lit Readathon, and all I really knew going into this is it was a male-male romance and it had to do with a bakery, and I was like, I am sold, I want it. Within 48 hours, Alex loses his relationship and then also his job, so he decides to move back home to where his mom lives in Ann Arbor, and he takes her cafe that she can't really run anymore because she's getting a little too old, and also she wants to have time with her new boyfriend, and turns it into his own bakery, which is a lifelong dream of his. That's what he's been doing in New York, and now that's what he's doing in his small hometown. On the first day, this man comes in and he's immediately drawn to him. Particular things about this story that I like. 1, that it's set in a bakery. That will always be something that I adore. 2, this love interest, even though it doesn't say explicitly on the page, is neurodivergent. 3, this talks a whole hell of a lot about consent and what people want. And 4, there is a very sexy male masturbation scene that is not played for laughs, which is something very rare to find in media. This was absolutely my favorite thing that I read for the Reading Rush. My favorite thing that I read all month, however, was Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is actually one of their books that I had never heard of before. I just found it in my audiobook catalog on the app and went, hey, Christina Lauren book, I will listen to this because I will listen to anything they've written at this point. This book is a second chance romance between Macy and Elliot. Macy's mother died when she was quite young and left her father a list of rules to follow. One of them being that as soon as Macy starts getting stressed at school, they should take a vacation. He meant this to mean that he should buy a vacation home. So when Macy is 14, she meets Elliot, who lives next door at this vacation home. This book takes place in the past, where we have this formation of this friendship that is budding to become something more, and then also in the present, where they see each other for the first time in 11 years. This book is formatted in a way where you have no idea why they haven't seen each other in 11 years. They just see each other for the first time in a coffee shop, and it's quite shocking, and everything goes from there. There are complications, however. He is seeing somebody, she is engaged to somebody else. But they can't deny that there's still an attraction, and they definitely have to talk about whatever it was that happened 11 years previous. I fell head over heels for this book. I loved the way that it was structured and you didn't know what broke them up initially. I loved all of the emotions. I loved them going back and forth between now and the past. I absolutely adored the conversations they had as teens as they started becoming more sexual and understanding their own sexual identities. They were best friends, so they talked about things like masturbation. I would also just like to say that Elliot is one of the sexiest male characters I've ever seen on the page, and I fell a little bit in love with him. So yeah, if you're looking for a second chance romance and you're looking for something that is chock-a-block full of all of the feels, this is definitely one to pick up. If you want to hear me talk more about these books, or other books for that matter, the playlist for my weekly entertainment wrap-ups is always linked down below. If you've read any of these or want to read any of these, please let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!